Dennis was, he worked at Green Neck up in.
No, this person
Well,
was
well,
a
but-
teacher.
Yeah, well, there was a, maybe,
Yeah, he was a teacher.
I had some
at
old
Lowell,
stuff.
But he had retired.
Perfect, sounds good.
this one lived, just,
Been a lot. Okay,
I might have to read it.
yeah, is he gonna be by phone or by Zoom or? We haven't heard from him.
But like I said,
Yeah.
it's
It's his sister's
brother, his brother-in-law,
Brother-in-law.
died. I think it was a,
And he had told me last week that he had a doctor's appointment.
well, I can read it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. This meeting of the Wapaka County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes so that the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. This meeting is conducted under Wapaka County Resolution number 12, 2021-2022 regarding remote governance. Committee board members may in person or remotely. Following information states the YouTube channel address. This meeting may inadvertently cause a quorum of other county committees or the county board of supervisors. No business decisions of any other committees or the board of supervisors will be conducted at this meeting. Roll call indicates 4 members are present and 1 Dennis is absent, but he told me about it last week. So if he's not by Zoom or by phone, he is excused. Have you had a chance to look at the agenda?
making a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, sir. Moved by Supervisor Muck, seconded by Supervisor Murphy to approve the agenda as published. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Next is the minutes from July 6, 2021.
I'd so moved to approve.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Moved by Supervisor Fedorowicz, seconded by Supervisor Muck to approve the minutes from July 6. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Those opposed, motion carried. Public comment. I myself have a real brief statement I would like to read, and I'll just pass it around a little bit here. Keep one for yourself. I have investigated and studied chapter NR 116 of the Wisconsin Floodplain Management Program to see what I could learn. I believe this is the document that provides the historical legal basis for the current floodplain ordinances and defines the terms on the following revisions. Why do I bring this up? I believe the conservation programs developed by the USDA and the state of Wisconsin DNR, with some support from groups like Ducks Unlimited, Pheasants Forever, and other conservation groups, are good for improving water quality, soil conservation, and flood control. NR 116 regulates floodplain development. These wetland restorations and conservation programs are undevelopment. NR 116 deals with what people can and cannot do in a floodplain. Conservation plans I have mentioned seek to return function to floodplain as it was before any people manipulated them. NR 116, parent 2, lists permitted uses. Those associated with agriculture, recreation, surface parking lots, storage yards, or sand and gravel operations are permitted in floodway areas. NR 116.05. Adoption and upgrading a floodplain zoning ordinance states in parent 3, substitution, where the department finds that one or more of the following regulations, codes, or programs will accomplish the purpose of NR 116.01, which is the purposes. These regulations, codes, or programs may be substituted in lieu of all or portions of floodplain zoning ordinances. We should remember our conservation morals in Wisconsin and not forget the efforts of people like John Muir and Aldo Leopold. So as conservation-minded owners, landowners, come to the USDA and RCS, our Land and Water Department, and the Wisconsin DNR to help where they can to improve water and soil quality. Let the Planning and Zoning Department respect the work of these trained professionals and not negate the incentives these agencies provide by requiring permits, fees, and causing delays. Thank you. Any other public comment?
What was that all about?
There's NRCS is involved with wetland restorations, and in the past, permits and fees were not required from planning and zoning. And now that there's a change in interpretation, and so they're asking for permits and fees when projects like wetland restorations are implemented.
That is required from the planning commission?
Planning and zoning.
The Planning and Zoning Office.
Commission.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was in 2015, Act 55 made changes to what we can allow in our shoreline ordinance. And it's true, prior to 2015, the ordinance did have exemptions for soil and water land conservation practices. The model ordinance that we received from the DNR at the time, because again, that legislation said at that time that we can be no more restrictive, or basically what's in NR 115 is what we have to have in our ordinance, and that's what we put in there. And so since 2015, we've no longer had that exception for soil and water land conservation practices, and that was brought on by the DNR.
What kind of
And-
practices are you talking about?
It's taking farmland that was converted to production and drained with ditches or tile, and plugging the ditches, breaking the tile.
Oh, so you're not talking about anything like what I'm involved in.
No,
You're talking about making new, drying up floodland,
No, making them wet again.
making them wet again?
And you're saying that you have to have a permit to make them wet again?
yeah, that's
Okay.
what the ordinance reads, and that's what was required by the DNR.
Why would
And we've
anybody
had
want to
meetings
make
with
them
Land
wet
and Water
again?
to discuss that very issue.
Okay,
Why would anybody want to make them wet again?
The government has incentives to take marginal land out of production. And so they will pay farmers, it's not any big money. And that's where this gets to be a disincentive, in that they don't, if it's a small project, they don't get very much money. And then when you add a fee to it, then it's like, well, then why bother? But these little projects all add up to improving water quality, like these floodplain basins in town.
Yeah,
Catch the water before it runs in the mill pond, and let the mud settle to the bottom.
okay.
So. Okay, thank you. With that, we'll start our first public hearing.
Planning and Zoning Committee meeting and public hearings to be considered today, Tuesday, July 27, 2021, are open to the public. Anyone present may speak, providing they stand up and identify themselves, have filled out a notice of public appearance sheet, which are located in the box by the entrance door. Anyone attending by phone or Zoom meeting may speak, provided they identify themselves by name, address before doing so. We are recording these proceedings, so it is important that you state your name and address before addressing the committee. We request that you do not interfere or interject comments while another person has the floor. The chair will permit adequate time for anyone wishing to speak and may compel the attendance of witnesses. Following hearings have been published as Class 2 notices in accordance with Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes, and will be heard by this committee. Lynn and Betty Jepson Revocable Trust, Jonathan and Jan M. Henschel, Anna Shane Wen, Daniel J. and Ruth Ann Burst, Scott and Janice Prebush. The County Zoning Committee is a delegate union of the county board by ordinance to consider zoning ordinance amendments and decide conditional uses. The zoning committee is interested in hearing all pertinent evidence. Witnesses in favor of the application will be called first, those opposed second, and then others. After each witness has appeared, he or she may be questioned by the committee. Persons present who are not appearing as witnesses will be allowed to propose relevant questions to be put to the committee. However, the chair reserves the right to rule on relevancy, and no member of the audience will be allowed to give testimony without being sworn. Because a record of this hearing is being tape recorded, it is imperative that each witness or speaker identify themselves and their interest in the subject matter of this hearing before speaking. Please speak in the direction of the microphone on the presentation table. A time limit on the presentations may be imposed. I do request that you avoid repetition and limit your remarks to the subject matter being considered. Neither the committee nor your neighbors will benefit from hearing statements that repeat opinions which have already been expressed or that relate to matters other than the case before the committee. Personal attacks or abusive testimony and gross hearsay, rumor or gossip will be ruled out of order by the chair, subject to the immediate appeal to the majority of the committee. With that, we'll call the first public hearing to order. Purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application of Lynn and Betty Jepson Revocable Trust, located in part of the southwest of the northwest of Section 14, Town of Larrabee, lying along Brodsky Road, Tobacco County, Wisconsin, part of parcel 10-14-23-1, for a petition for a zoning map amendment from the agricultural retention AR district to the agricultural and woodland transition AWT district on approximately 2 acres to facilitate a boundary line adjustment with an adjacent lot. Will the secretary read the names of persons notified of the hearing?
Lynn Jepson Senior, Town Chairman, Stacy Jepson, Town Clerk, David Burgess, Town Supervisor, G. Meyer, Town Supervisor, Dennis Wangulski, District Supervisor, Lynn Jepson Jr., Pat County Corporation Council, Roger and Jennifer Barnick, Lynn and Betty Jepson Revocable Trust, Lynn Jepson Jr., Ricky Loff et al., Bradley Stelreck Living Trust, Thomas Warren.
I'd direct a copy of this affidavit to be filed as part of the record of these proceedings. The committee conducted an on-site inspection of this property. The committee will now hear the application of Lynn and Betty Jepson Revocable Trust. Will the applicant or their agent please come forward to be sworn in to testify? If they are present by phone or Zoom meeting, please identify yourselves to be sworn in.
We were told prior to this that Lynn and Betty Jepson weren't going to be able to make it to the meeting for testimony. And so there was a request that Dwayne had heard this morning that in lieu of testimony, that they would be able to basically enter in their testimony as saying that they weren't able to get off of work. So they wanted to just basically call Dwayne and offer the testimony that way. So if you would be able to give a rundown of the conversation.
Okay, I should back up. I do chair the Bavaria Fund ambulance, and last evening Lynn was not there. Normally, he's under finance committee, he's there. And he had not called or anything, and this morning, a little before 8, he called and just told me that, you know, he is not feeling well. And his son just took a new job. They sold the milk route. And he says there's nothing controversial about this in his mind. So he wanted me to relay to the committee here that we should proceed without anybody in person.
So in the absence of that, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, we can present what the application is. So they're looking at doing a boundary line adjustment, as you can see on the screen, to combine the area that says proposed AWT. They'd like to combine with the house parcel. South currently right now it is zoned as ag retention and part of farmland preservation. Changing it to AWT is allowing them to do that boundary line adjustment to include that acreage with their house parcel. And with the boundary line adjustment, there is no expenditure of development rights that would be associated with it. It is just amending the zoning and for them to follow through with the plat survey, which is part of the packet as well. They need to follow through with the deed work after the zoning has been effective.
Pretty straightforward. Any other questions from the committee? I'll call for further testimony. Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Third call, any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony? Are there any letters?
We do have the town recommendation form from the town of Larrabee in regard to the Jepson Revocable Trust property, parcel 10-14-23-1. Current zoning district is agriculture retention. Proposed zoning district is agriculture and woodland transition. What will the proposed use of the parcel if the zoning is approved? Future goals shed and agricultural crop plan. Town Plan Commission recommend approval. Lynn Jepson dated March 11th, 2021. Town Board recommend approval. Lynn Jepson, Town Chairman, and Stacy Jepson, Town Clerk, both dated also March 11th, 2021.
Thank you. Does the Planning and Zoning Office have a recommendation?
We do, Mr. Chairman. In light of the fact that the township is in favor of this and meets all criteria, we are in favor of approval of this application as well.
Okay, is there any other questions? If not, we're in order for a motion. I'll make a motion. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Moved by Supervisor Murphy, seconded by Supervisor Muck to approve the zone map amendment. Roll call vote.
Yes.
Vote, Muck, Federowitz.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Nygaard, yes. Motion carries. Is there a motion to close?
Make a motion to close hearing.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Muck, seconded by Supervisor Federowitz to close the hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. On to the next.
Okay, with that, we'll call the second public hearing to order. The purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application for Jonathan G. and Jan M. Mitchell, located in a part of the northeast and northwest of Section 11, town of Bear Creek, lying along Elmdale Road, fire number E9041, Putnam County, Wisconsin, part of parcel 01-11-21. For a petition for zoning map amendment from the agricultural retention, AR, district to the rural residential overlay, RRO, on approximately 2 acres. This property is in the farmland preservation area and will utilize one development right to create this 2-acre lot. Will the secretary read the names of the persons notified of the hearing?
Douglas Banky, Town Chairman, Carrie Griepentrog, Town Clerk, Richard Rowan, Town Supervisor and District Supervisor, Patrick Huss, Town Supervisor, Thacker County Corporation Council, James and Veronica Borland Revocable Trust, Mark and Michelle Borland, Jonathan and Jan Henschel, Mark Clem et al., Blair and Catherine Saul, Patrick Schrader.
Is that it?
That's it. Okay.
I hereby direct a copy of this affidavit to be filed as part of the record of these proceedings. The committee has conducted an on-site inspection of this property. The committee will now hear the application of Jonathan G. and Jan Mitchell. The applicant or their, please come forward and be sworn in to testify. If they are present by telephone or Zoom meeting, please identify yourselves to be sworn in.
Anybody present?
Yeah, we're online.
Okay. Are they?
Can you hear us?
Are you on can you do a camera too, or is it only audio?
Well, I don't quite know how to do the camera.
Okay, we can just
So
handle
I
it.
just,
Well, hello, I'm Chairman Jim Nygaard. Could I ask you to stand and raise your right hand?
Sure.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please state your names and address and tell us what the application is about.
Yeah. This is Jonathan G. Henschel, W10529 County Road D, Clintonville, Wisconsin.
Jan M. Henschel, W10529 County Road D, Clintonville.
And the reason the zoning change is because we're trying to sell a house that's on this property because we don't need it. I bought it for the farmland. And so in order to sell it, it's got to be rezoned, I guess. So I guess that's what we're trying to do. So, and then we did the smallest we could, is just a little over 2 acres to get all the buildings in. So that's all I got.
Yeah. Pretty run of the mill again.
Yep, this is farmland preservation. They're utilizing the development right to split off this 2 acre parcel.
Any questions from the committee?
Oh.
Well, I drove by and I see the sign for sale on it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I'm going to call for any more testimony. So just hang on for a little bit in case we need to call you back for any more questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
Is there any further testimony in favor of this application? Any testimony in favor of this application? Third call, any testimony in favor of this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Third call, any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony? Are there any letters?
We do have the town recommendation form in regard to the Jonathan Henschel property, parcels 01-1121. Current zoning district is agriculture retention. Proposed zoning district is rural residential overlay. What will be the proposed use of the parcel if the rezoning is approved? 2 acres would be residential, the remaining 38 would remain agricultural. In accordance with Wisconsin statutes 91.48, parent A, the land is better suited for use not allowed in the farmland preservation zoning district, yes. Parent B, the rezoning is consistent with any applicable comprehensive plan, yes. Parent C, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the county certified farmland preservation plan, yes. Parent D, the rezoning will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of surrounding parcels of land that are zoned for or legally restricted to agricultural use, yes. Town Plan Commission recommend approval, Dana Hanson, dated June 14, 2021. Town Board recommend approval, Town Chairman Douglas Mankey, Town Clerk Carrie Buchentrod, dated June 14, 2021.
Thank you. Does the Planning and Zoning Office have a recommendation?
We do, Mr. Chairman. In light of the fact that the township's in favor of this, this meets all ordinance requirements. They'll be spending one development right to do this. We are absolutely in favor of approval of this application.
Thank you. Does the committee have any more questions? If not, we'd be in order to have a motion to approve the zone map amendment.
Also moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Moved by Supervisor Muck, seconded by Supervisor Murphy to approve the zone map amendment. Roll call vote. Muck,
Yes.
Federowitz,
Yes,
Murphy.
Yes.
Nygaard, yes. Motion carries. Is there a motion to close the hearing?
also move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Supervisor Federowitz, seconded by Supervisor Muck to close the hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Well, John and Jan, you can get back to farming now.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
They're my neighbor.
You bet.
For D, they can be close.
Okay, with that, we'll call this third public hearing to order. The purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application for Anna Shanewen, located in part of the southeast quarter of section 7, being a part of CSM 7218 and part of the southwest quarter of section 8 town of Bear Creek, lying along Bear Creek Road, fire number E7698, Wapaka County, Wisconsin, part of parcels 01-07-44-4 and 01-08-33 for a zoning amendment, for a zoning map amendment from the agricultural retention AR district and the agricultural enterprise AE district to the rural residential overlay RRO district on approximately 2 acres. This property is in the farmland preservation area and will utilize one development right to create this 2-acre lot. Will the secretary read the names of persons notified of this hearing?
Douglas Banky, Town Chairman, Kerry Griepentrag, Town Clerk, Richard Warren, Town Supervisor and District Supervisor, Patrick Cost, Town Supervisor, Town Schneiderwin, Agent, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, attention to Kyle Zabon, Parkman Creek State Park, Patrick County Corporation Council, Kenneth and Judy Dreyfuss, Christopher and Mary Gilling, Daniel and Brenda Hanson, Donald and Diane Conrad Revocable Trust, Anna Schneiderwin, Thomas and Cindy Schneiderwin, Robert and Kathy Banky.
Okay, I direct a copy of this affidavit to become part of the record of proceedings. The committee has conducted an on-site inspection of this property. The committee will now hear the application of Anna Shanewen. Will the applicant or their agent please come forward and be sworn in to testify? If they are present by telephone or Zoom meeting, please identify yourselves to be sworn in.
Good morning. We swear testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a seat. Please state your name and address and tell us what the application is about.
Tom Schneiderlin, E7638 Bear Creek Road, Clintonville. This is both splitting off 8 acres on the back and the back part of that parcel that I want to buy. And the front part with the house and stuff, she's still keeping that yet. But in order to split it off, we have to rezone that, I guess, or whatever you're doing.
Yep, that's exactly what we're looking at here. It's same as the last one that created a 2-acre parcel pulling out of farmland preservation to rezone it to rural residential overlay to allow the split that happen.
So I already own the existing 30 acres there, and I want to add that 8 acres to the back, on the back behind the house there, my property.
So it's kind of in between 2 different parcels right now for it.
Right.
They're both in farmland preservation. I believe one was egg retention, one was egg enterprise across there for going to the rural residential overlay for the new 2-acre parcel.
There's a whole lot of farmland there anyhow.
There's a little bit there.
Yeah. Probably 3-4 acres is probably about all end up being.
Yeah, probably not the choicest in town.
No. Pretty low there with ditches and stuff running through there, so. Let's just add it to my property, that's all it is, it's basically what I'm doing.
Sure.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Are there fish in that pond?
Yes.
Just want to know where I can go fishing.
Do you need a permit there?
I suppose.
Looks like it comes right up to the road right away, so they could sneak in there maybe.
Fish for the road.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty property.
Yeah. Any other questions from the committee? Well, if you want to return to your seat for a little while, just stick around in case there's any more questions.
Okay.
We're going to call for more testimony.
Thanks.
Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any testimony in favor of this application? Is there any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony? Are there any letters?
We do have a town recommendation form in regard to the Anna Schneiderlin property, parcel 010744 and 010833, current zoning district, agriculture enterprise and agriculture retention. Proposed zoning district is rural residential overlay over the proposed use of the parcel if the rezoning is approved, same as it is now. In accordance with Wisconsin State Statutes 91.48, parent A, the land is better suited for use not allowed in the farmland preservation zoning district, yes. Parent B, the rezoning is consistent with any applicable comprehensive plan, yes. Parent C, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the county certified farmland preservation plan, yes. Parent D, the rezoning will not substantially impair or limit current or future agricultural use of surrounding parcels of land that are zoned for or legally restricted to agricultural use, yes. Town Planning Commission recommend approval. Hanson dated June 14, 2021. Town Board recommend approval. Chairman Douglas Stanky, Town Clerk Carrie Riebentrog, also dated June 14, 2021.
Thank you. Does Planning and Zoning Office have a recommendation?
We do. In light of the fact that the township's in favor of this meets all criteria that for farmland preservation and development right to create this, we're absolutely in favor of approval of this application.
Okay, did any other questions come up from a committee? Seeing not, we'd be in order to approve this zone map amendment also.
Also move.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Moved by Supervisor Muck, seconded by Supervisor Fedorowicz to approve this zone map amendment. Roll call vote. Muck,
Yes.
Fedorowicz,
Yes.
Murphy,
Yes.
Nygaard, yes, motion carries. Is there a motion to close?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Muck, seconded by Supervisor Murphy to close the hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Jim, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
it's been a while since I Zoomed and I didn't know if I was doing it right.
yeah. And I thank you for chiming in. Make sure that he's on record as attending by Zoom. So,
Yeah, I've been here pretty much the last two hearings, but I think I didn't have something right here. But I'm with you now.
all right.
We saw you under
All
Dennis.
right, okay.
I'm trying to fill in for you, Dennis, here. So.
You're doing a good job.
Also, my condolences to you and your wife.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
With that, we'll call the fourth public hearing to order. The purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application for Daniel J. and Ruth Ann Burst, located in part of the southwest of the northeast and the northwest of the southeast of Section 4, being a part of CSM 7813, Town of Royalton, lying along Bear Lake Road, fire number E5947, Wapaka County, Wisconsin, parcel 16-04-42-2, for a conditional use permit private reception venue in the agriculture and woodland transaction AWT district on approximately 5.34 acres. Will the secretary read the names of the persons notified of the hearing, please?
Joe Rowland, Town Chairman, Lori Rudenzel, Town Clerk, Marlon Ebert, Town Supervisor, Mike Wieters, Town Supervisor, Patrick County Corporation Council, Jed Bolt, Patrick County Public Health, Daniel and Ruth Forrest, Local Living Trust, Daniel and Ruth Ann Forrest, Ryan Conroy et al., Robin and Sam Donahue, Edward and Patricia Krill.
I hereby direct a copy of this affidavit to be filed as a part of the record of these proceedings. Committee has conducted an on-site inspection of this property. Committee will now hear the application of Daniel J. and Ruth Van Burst. Will the applicant or their agent please come forward and be sworn in to testify? If they are present by telephone or Zoom meeting, please identify yourself to be sworn in.
I'll swear you both in at the same time. You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yes. Thank you. Have a seat, state your names and address, and tell us what it's about.
Daniel J. Burst, E5663 Your Road.
Ruth Van Burst, E5663 Your Road, Vanderbilt.
So you want to, wedding barn, events.
Yes. So basically, we're looking at the first stage of it, kind of doing just the receptions there, and then we got 2 weddings that want to be next year, ceremonies, and then basically they would be at Bear Lake doing their dinner and that. And then eventually, well, what we want to do is we want to do all different themes around the 5 acres, wedding pictures, stuff like that. And this would be step 1, and then maybe down the road, maybe we would have food catered in, and then maybe have the dance and everything there, but we're just gonna go in phases right now.
Yeah. So, town is all on board with all this, and
We sat our 2 meetings with the town board, and then they put in their stipulations of what they wanted of us.
so you got a good understanding of all the conditions.
Yep.
So then just for the record, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I realize we went through one of these, I think, the last meeting. I know there's certain steps as you progress, you have to get the state involved, but at this point, the state doesn't need to be involved yet, or
Well, we gotta,
just so we're all on the same page, so.
well, and we know that the building inspector is gonna want us to make sure that barn is safe. So we basically proceeded with her sister, who's an architect in Milwaukee. And she sent the plans to a state engineer out of Appleton. So we do have drawings, and we're going through that process right now.
And you did contact the building inspector, so we're waiting for him to come out.
This, I called him last week, but he hasn't really come back or got a hold of me yet.
He's the local building inspector at the state.
No, but I want to proceed with him first, and I don't want to jump over him. I mean, if he don't want to be able to do it, well, then he'll probably advise me to go to the next step.
Yeah.
I mean, we own all the land across the road, and her sister and brother-in-law own the land around it. And we own the house across the road, that's our rental house, so.
So then just looking at the site plan that you have here, the area you have marked as parking, obviously is where the parking is going to occur. Boys and girls, that's their dressing rooms?
Yeah, the dressing rooms. Yeah, I should, it's not bathrooms, the dressing rooms.
We are probably gonna put bathrooms in there. I'll have to get a sanitary permit. I don't know if we gotta go to holding tank or what. Instead of going to porta potties, I think we're just gonna proceed with that right away.
Is there a well on both sides of the road?
No, the well is on this side of the road and it goes under the road, so it feeds the house. Our rental house, and then basically the well is gonna be on this side. I got an electrician out there now. We're looking at updating to a 400 amp service to accommodate this. And then basically in that old machine shed right there, we are transitioning out of dairy and we are going to be going to beef. And we are selling Harper's meats out of Tigerton as processing our meat. We're going to sell brats and all that stuff. So we did contact the health to get the meat permit. So we're updating that shed right now and insulating it. And that's where we're going to sell some meat out of there only on Fridays and Saturdays, and hopefully targeting the campers like Bear Lake.
So then just for the record, then you're aware of the town's recommendations, no parking on the road, and the timeframe it used to be from 9 AM to 11 PM.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If you got a good understanding of what all conditions and stipulations are. That's,
Yeah, and it'd be totally different if the house was right across the road and we didn't own it. I mean, there could be some problems.
Jason, if you don't mind, would you read the conditions set forth as long, when they're all still sitting by the table here?
Yeah, absolutely. So the township conditions that they want to see applied is our commercial building code we adopted for site requested. Included in the comprehensive plan, if there's no parking on the road, timeframe of use 9 AM to 11 PM, and have plan reviewed 1 year. I believe we were recommending the same conditions, but for the most part, is that they obtain a commercial building permit. All parking shall be on the property, and adequate spaces shall be provided, so it's compliant with ordinance report. No parking shall be permitted, road operating hours from 9 AM to 11 PM, and that there's a review of the permit after 1 year.
At first it was 6 months, but then we said we really ain't gonna have nothing going until next spring. So then they just upped it to a year, because otherwise there really was nothing. 6 months.
Yeah, nothing to look at yet.
Right. Okay. Is there any other questions from it? Yeah, go ahead.
One is not related to this. I noticed you just started harvesting the winter wheat. Is it doing pretty decent, or can't
The
tell?
rye,
Or the rye?
it's winter rye.
Okay.
Oh,
I made one round and then the header broke on it. So now my parts are
Waiting
coming
on
today.
fruits.
oh,
It's like 150 acres to do.
Oh, okay.
The weather didn't cooperate.
My other question was, when you go through these permits and everything, is there anything you're gonna need to build on or anything like that to the barn or anything, so we don't get in trouble with building permits?
The only thing I want to is we're arguing back and forth on
Where
Where we want to put a deck.
where we want to put a deck. Or maybe now we're maybe looking just go to the south on the other end of the barn and just have a kind of a deck out there.
As it drops down?
Yeah.
I mean, just so we,
I believe we either have a land use permit already, or.
Yeah.
We have a
or when
land
we
use,
have the
yeah.
application.
And I wrote the deck was going to be on the west side.
Might get shifted.
Yeah, it shifted to the south. We're pretty sure.
I'll ask you next.
the square foot of the deck will be similar, whether it's on the west side or south side or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody said, put it on the north side. He says, we can't, it's too close to the road.
And I had land and water out there and we're trying to figure out. So we got a dirt pile there. We want to move the dirt pile and level it all out, but we don't want to go and get water trapped in there. So I had Greg Peterson come out and we're going to put eave troughs on all that. So we get all the water to run to that little reservoir. We kind of got a
Where it looks
wetland
like a little
restoration right there. We're going to run the tile into there.
Over, right, a little bit to the left, yeah.
Over here? Yeah,
Right there.
now go.
Well,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, right there. That's where the tile will go in. And that feeds down, and then we got, that's all a wetland restoration that, the Army Corps of Engineers, but it was somebody that helped us
Fish and
design that.
Wildlife.
Fish and Wildlife did that.
Sure.
And we want to put a windmill up in there. You can find an old windmill, and then we got an old tractor. It's just all different themes for pictures. Life after farm.
After milking, this will be farming.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, if you want to return to your seats and just stick around in case there's any other questions that come up. Is there any further testimony in favor of this application? Yes.
I'm the town chairman, and I think I was hearing what you was all saying. We're very much in favor of what they're doing. They have a very, I think, a very good idea, a very good plan. In fact, it's going to take time to get it all going, but when it's done, I think it'll be done right.
Duly noted.
Okay.
I just think we should be able to have one good opportunity.
Thank you. Any further testimony? Any further testimony in favor? Third call for testimony in favor. Any testimony in opposition? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Third call, any testimony in opposition? Any testimony? Are there any letters?
We do have the town recommendation form. This is again, Root Forest property, parcel 1604-42-2. Current zoning district is ag in transition. What are the existing uses of adjacent land to this parcel and are they compatible? We own across the road as farmland and rent out the house. My sister owns the land adjacent and used as grassland, zoned agriculture and woodland. Is the proposal consistent with the town vision statement as found in the town comprehensive plan? Yes. We have over 5 acres and own the land north of it. Reusing and updating buildings on property. Is the proposal consistent with town goals, objectives, and development strategies as found in the town comprehensive plan? Yes. If applicable, please list recommended conditions for the Impact County Planning and Zoning Committee to consider. Commercial building code to be adopted for site requested, including comprehensive plan that there's no parking on the road. Timeframe of use 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and half plan reviewed in 1 year. Town Plan Commission recommend approval. Wayne Bork, Plan Commission chairperson, dated July 7, 2021. Town Board recommend approval. Town Chairman Jim Rowan. Town Clerk Lori Denzel, dated July 8, 2021.
Thank you. Does this planning and zoning office have a recommendation?
As stated before, we're in favor of this application, provided the conditions. Would you like me to read the conditions again?
There weren't very many, so
Okay.
just read them in the record.
Applicant shall obtain a commercial building permit to be structure utilized for the venue. All parking shall be on the property and adequate spaces shall be provided so as to comply with ordinance requirements. No parking shall be permitted on the road. Operating hours shall be from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. and approval shall be reviewed in 1 year's time.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the committee? If not, we'd be in order to have.
Mr. Chairman, I'd so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Fedorowicz, seconded by Supervisor Muck to approve this conditional.
Wait a minute.
Murphy, excuse me. Sorry, Terry. Yeah, team two. To approve this conditional use permit, roll call vote, Muck,
Yes.
Fedorowicz.
Yes.
Murphy.
Yes.
Nygaard, yes, motion carries.
Yes.
Oh, yes, Dennis.
Yes.
You know,
Dennis.
you know how easy I am to forget?
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I don't see you sitting across the table from me. I'd have to put a picture of you there, then I'll. You're a little blurred.
Okay, with that, we'll call this 5th public hearing to order. The purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application of Scott Hawkey and Janice Prebish, located in part of the southeast and northwest of section 20, town of Lynn, further described as lot 10 of CSM 6585, lying along Pope Road, fire number N1115, Waupaca County, Wisconsin, parcel 12-20-24-5, for a petition for zoning map amendment from the private recreation and forestry PVRF district to the agricultural enterprise AE district at approximately 9.49 acres to facilitate a boundary line adjustment with an adjacent lot. Will the secretary please read the names of persons notified of this hearing?
Steve Gall, town chairman. Kelly McCoy, town clerk. Andy Jensen, town supervisor. Cindy Hardy, town supervisor and district supervisor. Kyle Bum, Army Corps of Engineers. Department of Natural Resources, Attention to Dale Reservoir. Parkman Creek State Park. Larry Dolke, Waupaca County Corporation Council. Brooks Farms Homestead LLC. Ronald Brooks Living Trust. Christopher and Kelly Carlson Revocable Trust. Gilligan Convertible Trust. Dolke Realty Inc. Janice Prebish and Scott. Oh, there's more, sorry. Samuel Fenton, Margaret May Keel Revocable Trust. Larry 2019 Joint Revocable Trust. Nickel Acres LLC. Donald Pope, James Zelinsky, Carolyn Webb, and William Zummer.
I hereby direct a copy of this affidavit to be filed as a part of the record of these proceedings. The committee has conducted an on-site inspection of this property. The committee now will hear the application of Scott Howe and Janice Peevish. Will the applicant or their agent please come forward and be sworn in to testify? If they are present by telephone or Zoom meeting, please identify yourself and be sworn in.
Hello. You swear a testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yep. Thank you. Please have a seat and state your name and address and tell us what the application is about.
Okay. My name is Sal. Jan Prebush is my girlfriend. She has dementia. She wouldn't even. Okay. That's why she's not here. And it's North 1115 Polk Road. And basically what I want to do, if I can have a.
Again, how about we pull it up on the screen so everybody can see that? So Ryan, if we want to pull this one up.
You passed it. Okay. I own the property. Gotta come down a little. Yeah, there you go. See the woods line? I mean, the woods line by the road? Right there. I live on the road side of it, of course. No, that's Nichols property.
Right, so right by the dog.
Yeah, right. Right,
In between the pond and the road, correct?
in between the pond and the road, but I only want to zone residential from the tree line to the road.
So what we have going on here, is it okay that I elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit. So this was kind of created by the previous owner. They sold Mr. Hawk and Ms. Prevish the property, but they described both the subject property and also the property to the west of that as one parcel. So as you can see, that one is zoned as, I think it's agriculture enterprise, and this one is zoned as PBRF. The zoning ordinance only allows one zoning district per tax parcel. So for them to exist as one parcel, we have to rezone this parcel to allow them to combine it. If they weren't combined, then the parcel to the west that was sold to them as well would have been an illegal split, one that wouldn't have been able to occur with this. This wasn't anything that Mr. Hawk or Ms. Prevish had done. They kind of are fixing an issue that we have with this. So to facilitate this, to allow the boundary line adjustment, the combination, it has to be amended one PBRF to a enterprise. When you're in reference to the residential areas, for I'm sure that's an assessment classification that you're looking for, so how it affects your taxes.
Yeah.
So that would be a matter that's described with your assessor out there as opposed to this particular.
Okay. So you're saying what I want to have taxable for,
You want to talk to your assessor about anything taxation. Zoning, we use similar nomenclature with similar words with zoning and assessing, but they're two separate animals out here. Really what we're doing today is trying to make sure that we can combine this parcel with the parcels to the back.
so right now, though, all the way to the road, everything is in color.
Correct.
Everything that's colored and hashed out. Yep.
And that is going to be turned into what?
Ag enterprise.
Ag enterprise.
Yep. So in that way, it's the same zoning district as the parcel to the west.
Okay, and then, what would be my advantage? But there's a house on, so that part really not ag.
Right, except for with our zoning district, we're allowed to have dwellings in that particular district. The assessor, when they do their taxes for you, they're gonna look at that area as residential because you're utilizing that area as residential.
Just the one space.
Just that wherever you work with them to figure out what's residential and what's not. For our purposes, this
This is
tells you how you can use them, as opposed to how.
Is there any limitation to like using?
No,
Anything that's
No,
an
really.
agricultural use.
it's all agricultural uses.
Okay, right by the donut pond, if you go to the donut pond,
Yep, yep.
right down lower. Close enough, right in there. I am planning on putting in a food plot to make it to make it for the animals.
Yep, a large portion of this is wetlands out there
Yeah.
too, so
And
they wouldn't allow you to be doing any filling in that area unless you have approval from the DNR.
it's a little high right
You can
there.
certainly tell if they realize it for it.
Yeah, and I am very open to planting more trees in there. Point about planting the trees is it's a guaranteed 80% loss of if you put tamaracks in. And tamaracks are the only thing that can go in. I'd be very interested in sitting down, talking with somebody about doing that.
Planting tamaracks in there.
About planting tamaracks in there, more of them to give it more habitat.
We can get you in contact with, like Fisher, the DNR forester, that can help you all with.
I think he came out once, but I'd like to talk to him again. Affording it, I don't know how that would be. You know, I want to own the land. I don't want to give it to the DNR and let them take over the property,
Yeah, no.
you know?
Understand.
And there's ways of doing that too. But I don't want to do that. But I want to keep the land, but if the most help I can get financially, I'd be more open into doing that.
So you can also talk with Land and Water Conservation just on the hall here to see if they have any program that will help you all with anything. like that.
They might be able to help you.
And then one.
Yep, just around the corner, just right up here.
Yep, so it's the glass windows down the hall. If you want to ask, stop
Okay.
in and ask some questions. They can help.
I have a question.
Yes, there's fish in the pond.
My question had not to do completely with fish, but that brown area is there, is that like water fed all the way
Sure.
out through those ponds?
Can I point?
Sure.
On the road, I couldn't see that.
This is- This is, comes off a river. It goes through all the properties to this side of you. And it feeds in there. I think he has some asset here that might not be able to see it. This all runs water. Water runs through here around my donut pond. I can actually see it move. And it goes in, feeds into all of them. And if you bring the map down, if you can, there's another one of these.
Yeah.
Go on the backside.
Yeah, there's another one of them that goes into another pond, so the water's constantly moving.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and the only way fish really get in there, they get back. Like when there's high water,
Sure.
you know, then they get in there. Some people said they've caught pound and a half bass in some of them. You know, also it's a little green right now, a little algae. My grandkids did catch a whale, you know, and they had fun. It was pretty cool to see it. They were perch and we did catch bass.
So,
So, I'd like to do something about cleaning that up, but if I clean mine up, you know, I'm just gonna get more pushed in. So I don't know what that would cost, or what that'd be involved in, you know? But that's about it.
Sure. Thank you.
Those are all dreams, so.
Thank you. Well, if you want to just take a seat for a while in case we have some other questions, I'm going to call for more testimony.
Okay.
Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any further testimony in favor of this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony in opposition to this application? Third call, any testimony in opposition to this application? Any testimony? Any letters?
We do have a town recommendation form in regard to the Scott Hawk and Janice Freeman property. Parcel number 122024-5, current zoning district, recreation and forestry. In accordance with Wisconsin State Statutes 91.48. Parent A, the land is budgeted for use not allowed in farm and preservation zoning district, yes. Parent B, the rezoning is consistent with any applicable comprehensive plan, yes. Parent C, the rezoning is substantially consistent with the county certified farm and preservation plan, yes. Parent D, the rezoning will not substantially impair or limit or future agricultural uses of zoning parcels that are zoned for or legally restricted to agricultural use, yes. Town Plan Commission recommend approval. Plan Commission Chairperson Eric Richardson dated April 7th, 2021. Recommend approval. Town Board, Town Chairman Steve Bell, McCoy, dated April 12th, 2020.
Thank you. Does planning and zoning office have a recommendation?
We do. In light of the fact that this meets all criteria that we have for it, and that's resulting in an issue that we've been dealing with for the better part of the year, we are absolutely in favor of this application.
I think I have one final question. Like you said, you've been dealing with this for quite a while. Where did this come to surface? When you saw a deed come through or something?
That's correct. A deed had come through. We work closely with Land Information Office on a day-to-day basis, and they let us know when stuff comes through that doesn't quite meet muster of what our ordinance requirements are. Hats off to Donna, John down in that office. They're very good at communicating, and Jason as well. They're very good at communicating with us when there's issues that need to be rectified. We're appreciative of that.
Okay. With that, we'd be in order to have a motion to approve the zone map amendment.
Also move.
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Mock, seconded by Supervisor Murphy. Roll call vote. Kussman,
Yes.
Mock,
Yes.
Fedorowicz.
Yeah.
Murphy.
Yes.
Nygaard, yes. Motion carries.
Motion to close the hearing?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Supervisor Kussman, seconded by Supervisor Mock to close the hearing. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Thank you, everybody. With that, we got a few bullet points. New vehicle update.
Last week's.
Yeah. I
Oh, you got
guess
different price
this
now?
one's been updated. Got some
Oh.
more bids come
Oh,
back.
okay.
Actually, we got some good news. Unfortunately, Dennis, I try to hand this to you here. So here's what I found. You can see in the left-hand side, you see our state prices. So this comes off of vendor.net. That's the state contract pricing that we have. So Ewald is the dealership that we would all have to go through for every vehicle. And so you'll see the state pricing there, Equinox at 23.2, the Trailblazer at 21, Escape 23, the Jeep Compass 24, the Nissan Rogue at 23.8. Those are really the only 5 vehicles that I thought would really meet what we're looking for, which is basically just a small-ish SUV, but yet has the ability to still have some cargo ability and also ground clearance associated with that, all-wheel drive. That's really what we're looking for. And so I contacted Neville's and I got bids from them in terms of what the best price that they could provide on same vehicles. And important to note that we're making this an apples to apples comparison. These are fleet vehicles. So these are stripped down cloth seats. Is the only thing that is required, they do have a convenience package they call, and that's required also on the state contract as well. I guess there's a law that requires that they need to have that as a minimum. And so you'll see that Neville's came in at 24,081, and then the Blazer came in at 21,193. So I contacted Plock as well to see what the exact same story, apples to apples, best comparison, the best vehicle pricing that they could come up with. Again, with the fleet, 24,900 and 21,200. I contacted Clintonville Motors at the same time, and they've yet to get back to me yet. She said, the gentleman that I spoke to said that it might be a couple days. So I'm still waiting to hear back from them. Now that's a Ford shop. So that's more of the Ford Escape, which would be something that we could take a look at. One thing I do want to make sure to say though, when I was talking to the gentleman, Dan Plock, one of the things that we need to pay attention to here is that the Trailblazer is actually quite a bit smaller than the Equinox. So the way it goes with the Chevys, there's a Chevy Trax, the Chevy Trailblazer, and then the Chevy Equinox. And that's why the Chevy Trailblazer is so much cheaper than the Equinox. The way he described it to me was that that's where all the cost savings went, was in all the cargo space. And it's fairly similar to what I'm hearing with the Ford Escape as well. When I've been talking to these people, the general managers or the owner at Dan Plock, was that the Trailblazer would work if you pull down the rear seats in terms of putting shovels, equipment back there, and so the other thing about the Trailblazer is that they're made in Korea. And so right now it takes about 6 months. And what they're saying is it's a healthy 6 months in terms of when we're actually going to be able to get these vehicles. The Equinox by comparison, they're made in 3 plants. There's one in America, there's one in Mexico, and there's one in Canada. The turnaround time on the Equinox is far faster. We'll be able to get those really quick. And it has far more cargo space. Now, we've already got an Equinox, but in the end, it seems like that's a good vehicle for us in terms of it being a good fit. We have $25,000 budgeted for these vehicles. The other thing I just want to note is, and this is something I learned when I was talking with John Francis about this. The one thing they don't tell you about buying a vehicle from Ewald or from that vendor.net is that you still have to pay destination costs.
Right.
So you have to add that into their cost that they have there. So $23,288 is actually going to be more than that when you take into consideration how much it's going to cost to get it delivered to us. So I guess right now where I sit on this, I mean, I don't know. It would be nice to get some bids back from Clintonville Motors. The other thing is that the gentleman that I spoke to at Clintonville was saying that there's also a Ford Edge, which is just slightly larger than the Escape, that might be able to fit the bill for what we're looking for. The other thing that he had mentioned is that there's a lot of municipalities and school districts that are late model used because the turnaround on that is that they'll be able to get that to you fairly quick. We don't have to worry about 6 months. We can take it off before. And they said, yes, you're losing some in terms of warranty, but in terms of getting something, if you need something quick, that might be another option as well.
So you want to scratch the Trailblazer?
That's kind of where I'm leading.
Yeah, so draw a line through that one.
Ryan, I can't see that, what you're showing about the prices and where from.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about this, Dennis. I was really hoping,
I've not shopped for a while. What, I suppose destination charges are depending what factory they come from.
can you see that? Dennis?
That's okay, Ryan. That's okay.
Yeah, I can email this all to you, Dennis.
How much?
I think
600.
You know what? I'm sorry, Dennis. I got these files open on my computer at work. I can get these in 2 minutes and put them on the screen. Would that be okay?
No, that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it.
My only comment is with the Ford dealer at Clintonville is the highway shop has had nothing but bad luck with them. And I hate to say that about somebody, but we did not get any good service out of the Ford dealer when we needed something done up there. So, I say that. But it's the highway shop. We're not going back there.
No.
His service was.
Do you have a recommendation, Ryan, which way you want to go?
Well, I mean, my personal recommendation on this, if I was to, if pressed to make a decision, right, as I said, I would buy the Equinox from Neville's. I would say that the cost on that it outweighs the idea of being able to buy a vehicle locally. Because I think that in the end, if we bought an Equinox from Ewald's, in the end, with destination costs associated with that, and what I'm hearing from John is that's in the about $400, give or take.
Almost $500.
Yeah. And so what you're looking at, realistically, buying it from the state is that it's probably going to come in around 23.7, more than likely. So then the price from Neville's is $24,081.
$300.
It's for a matter of $300. I just assume buy one local, and then we just go to the shop. It's just right there.
Right, I agree.
And how long is it going to take to get from Neville's?
Neville's will be quick. The Equinoxes can be made much faster than what the Trailblazers. It's still going to be a little bit of time because they still need to. There is a chip shortage, but it's not going to be nearly the 6 months. We'll be able to do a lot faster turnaround.
And the Clintonville Motors, where were they again?
So we didn't actually hear back from them.
Yeah.
I talked to them last week, middle of last week, and I haven't heard back yet.
Okay, Klein?
We had up there.
How about Klein?
I haven't heard from Klein as well.
Okay, I would think that if that's your recommendation, Ryan, and you feel comfortable with it, I would be in favor of going forward with that on that Equinox from Neville.
Okay. How do you guys feel about the vehicle?
Yeah, I think if you get it like that local, and he's gonna service it, we just avoid a whole can of worms.
Yeah. I agree too.
I agree.
Okay.
Keep it simple.
So what's interesting about buying a vehicle this time of year is that July, August is right at that time where they're flipping between the 21 and 22 model years. So that's one thing I'm gonna be working with the sales guy, because what I heard from Dan Plock was that the pricing should be pretty much the same. If anything, it's gonna adjust by in the matter of hundreds. The Equinox and the Trailblazer are not changing. The models aren't changing. They did a refresh in 2020 for the model line. So they're not making any substantive changes from the vehicle standpoint. So I guess if that's the recommendation, I guess I would put that in a form of a motion and I'll get the vehicle from Neville's.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Moved by Supervisor Kussman, seconded by Supervisor Murphy to approve the purchase of the Chevy Equinox from Neville Motors for the price in the, do I want to say the price or?
For, yeah, 2481.
24,000 roughly dollars.
Yep.
Sure. Voice vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, then clerk interviews.
Yes, so we held interviews, and we had 5 interviews, and 2 of them we brought in for testing. And unfortunately, Dr. Fico, if I'm being honest, he used language I haven't heard, very blunt language on the 2. And so it was, yeah, so we decided that it was probably best to keep looking. And so what we're looking at right now is we're looking back into the pool that we had. There's already a lead that we have from a gal that had already interviewed upstairs. And so so we have, that's very promising. So we're taking a look if there's any more people that we can interview as well to make it worth our time to interview maybe 2 or 3. Beyond that, we're looking at a recast.
Talk about Dr. Pico. One of the interviews I sat through later, he talked to them. He said he wouldn't even hire her for a factory worker. I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that as a tool.
Yeah. Yeah, we found that he's been pretty spot on.
Okay, 6-month budget review.
While you guys are looking at this, I feel sorry for you, Dennis. It only take me 2 seconds to put this.
Sure.
It's just, this is too important. I can put it on here in 2 seconds.
Give us a few minutes to look it over too, so.
So this is really not 6 months, it's right up to July 27th.
That's what it looks like.
I mean, that's what it looks up.
It says fiscal year to date of today.
Yeah, so it's a little more than 6 months.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? Ryan?
He walked away. Hang on.
Oh, okay,
He's gonna get this information up so you can see it.
okay, good. I was just kind of wondering, going back to the car purchase, what they're gonna do with the other car. or the old one, I should say.
So you,
Do you need one?
No, I got two of them already.
Okay.
how about the dog? The dog might need a car.
Well, you know, when you say that, you see people driving with their dog on their lap. Oh, my.
I won't even get in the car.
There's no link to go out to the counter.
There you go. Just curious, Dennis was wondering what you're gonna do with the old vehicle.
I talked to Heidi about it and more like we're just gonna trade it in. So the issue that we have with it, we got some safety issues with it. And so the way we look at those fleet vehicles, we always try to make it available to any other department because it's, in the end, it's a county asset. And if anybody else can use the vehicle, if it can benefit somebody else, let's try. The problem with this one is that it's gonna take a few $1,000s to make it safe again. And so we're wondering whether or not, I guess I would feel a little bad if I'm giving the vehicle to somebody knowing that they're gonna put a lot of money into it. And in the end, you're getting a vehicle that's, you know, fairly old and pretty high in miles. And so I asked Heidi about it in terms of policy and she said, you know, it'd make sense to trade it in.
I got no problem with that, Ryan. I see your point. I think it's a good point. I was just wondering.
Sure, absolutely.
Sometimes on a vehicle like that, it's just easier to just be done with it then.
Yeah. It's been a great vehicle. We love that vehicle, but it feels like it's getting to the point where it's gonna get expensive.
And the other thing that's just a little unusual right now, used vehicles are higher priced than what they should be, so somebody might just grab it.
Sure.
Just mine.
I had a niece that she was gonna trade her car in too, and so she just wanted the outright price, and the dealer came back and gave her 3,000 more than what she thought she was gonna get and bought it outright.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a market out there.
Yeah. Well, you look into all the car dealers, there's no cars out there, no
No.
lots.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty interesting on Barron. It is.
Yeah, there's none there.
Yeah.
Slim.
Dennis, are you able to see the screen?
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Not a problem, not a problem.
Now, this is actually through the 27th.
Yes, I ran this morning, so this is the
A little more than
latest.
6 months, okay.
So, building permits, so the first line is the 15,000 that we have in there. That's what the Wisconsin funds. So that's really anything that's taken out there, the liability automatically just gets offset. And so the building permits here, we have it on the budget. We have a revenue of $5,000 on that. That was we really had no clear idea as to what we're going to be getting on building permits. So again, the way this works is we get 10% on all the building permits that we get. And that we use that 10% that goes toward enforcement actions that we need to take. And so last year we took in $120, which makes sense because we only had a small amount of time last year that we had building inspection. This year we've taken just under 50% or 25 or 2421 so far. And so the next one down is our sanitary permits. You see in the budget, we have $60,000. And thus far, we've taken in 36,400 or roughly 61% of the budget. So we got about 23,600 more to go. You'll see our prior year to date was at 31,230. So you see we're ahead of schedule in terms of where we were at last year. Zoning ordinance, now this is our main, all of our land use permits, rezones, conditional uses come into here. So you'll see that right now we've taken in 86,203 or roughly 72% of the overall budget, which again is $120,000 is what we have budgeted for revenue on that. So we just got a little over about 33,800 left to go to meet budget on that. Like I know we've said this a couple times already, but our numbers, the land use permit numbers have actually in recent times have slowed a little bit. on us, but I mean, that's not to say we're, overall slowing down. There's still a lot going on. Like, I know we had mentioned at the previous meeting, we had 27 conditional use permits all last year. We've had 27 conditional use permits as of July. So that, and as we've noticed already, the amount of hearings that we have coming in front of the committee this year is more than what we've had in years past. I have no reservations about being able to meet budget on that this year. And so the next one down, we have mitigation permits. Again, this is one of those where it's kind of, it's always hard to tell exactly where we're at, where we're gonna get on this. So far, we've taken in 500. So 1,500 more to go. The overall revenue budget on that's 2,000. Just so you know, I worked with Brian on this. Dan is our representative for mitigation over in Land and Water. And so I worked with Brian on this to increase the amount of money that we get on these. Basically because there's been more time that we have to spend on violations than what we were initially expecting. So we bumped up our amount from $50 to $100 per permit. Maintenance fee, this is the sanitation, the sanitary fee. Now, remember that this was what we had put on to the tax roll. So what's interesting about this is that it's hard. It comes from a budgetary standpoint because now it's based on taxes. So we don't get any of this money come in. So the 2021 money isn't going to show up until about February or so of 2022. And then it gets booked for the previous year. So we've already got 62,120 in, but that's actually for last year's, so the way we have it set up though, is that should be the static amount, the $5, assuming everybody pays their taxes, then it will should be at that 62,000 range. So it should be fairly status quo. And so the other revenue source we have here at the bottom here, the maintenance free, and this is in terms of these are violations. Just so you know, so right now we're at 2415. And so we don't budget anything in this for this because it feels strange to be budgeting money on violations. We don't, obviously we would rather just not have violations to deal with, and so that's kind of a strange revenue because we're trying as hard as we can to get that down to zero. But it's hard to come by. But you can see though, last year at this time we were at 4,300 and this year we're at 2,400. So that's a good sign. Hopefully that stays true. So then the second page here is just our personal services. That's all just set up by, the standard. Telephone, 317. The cellular phone continues to just be expensive. There's really, and unfortunately, it's hard to get around that. Postage, we've already spent $3,764 out of our budget, $6,400. The big ones for those is like, say, the large Muckwell rezone that we just had when we're going to the AWT to rural residential. We're sending notices out to a lot of people. So those are the ones that get us on the postage. Beyond that, office supplies is the other big one that we have. We've only spent $2,000 on that, a little over $2,000. But we always wait on that. So the way I handle that budget item, I try to keep that as much as possible until we get into like the October range. Because that's when I know that, okay, we don't need building our supplies that get us through the building season. So now we can buy equipment that we need to replace for the next year. Because I want to know how much money we're going to have for that. The really big thing that we need to replace right now is our tablets are due for replacement. The problem though with those tablets is the same problem that basically anybody's having right now with buying electronics. You've heard Brent say it how many times in front of finance that it's just like pulling teeth right now and trying to get any type of laptop or a tablet. And so the last time we looked in the office, I believe Candace took a look at this, and the prices right now for tablets are just through the roof. So it's one of those where not sure if it really makes sense to buy it right now, or if it might make more sense just to wait another year for the prices to kind of get a little bit more reasonable for us. I'm sorry?
Or higher.
Yeah, right, depending. I mean, what we're hearing is that these chip manufacturers are building new plants and they're coming online. So, I mean, we're hopefully by next year, we should have this shortage taken care of, but you just kind of never know. So we got operating supplies for a Board of Adjustment. We have that listed as $1,000. And that's gonna be pretty much all eaten up and probably maybe even a little then some. We got issues in Board of Adjustment right now. There's a couple of cases that are getting, well, lawyers are getting involved potentially, it's another way to put it. And so because we're facing more and more lawsuits related to decisions made at the Board of Adjustment, we are now going to be having a court reporter at our meetings, at the Board of Adjustment meetings. One of the biggest problems that we've been having is finding somebody willing to transcribe a digital recording of the meeting. It's really hard to find anybody. And when I do find somebody, they tell me afterwards, it's the last time I'm doing this. So it's the majority of the people that we talk to, the court reporters, they are used to doing depositions where it's just one person, the attorney, and yourself. So you know the conversation, but when you are coming from the outside, you know, the gal that we had to do the last one was up in the Merrill area. She has no idea who's on the board. She has no idea who staff are, anybody. So it was just so hard for her to understand who was talking when, and you know, and there's, you try to introduce yourself, you say who your name is before you make a comment, but it falls apart. And so it's
I can say, I mean, we used to do these ourselves in the office for, and even knowing, even if you're sitting there, it's hard to remember who said what or what was said. We used to spend hours trying to figure out what was said in a 2-second piece for us. It's very difficult.
Yeah. So it's going to be in our best interest to have someone in the room taking the court report, because then that way, if and when it does get appealed in circuit court, we've got a copy, we've got the transcript right there. It's going to cost us more money, but there's really no two ways about it. You know, the only other way about it, I talked to the district attorney's office to see how they do this, and they use software to create transcripts. But so it's basically like a voice recognition software. The problem though is that they don't create certified copies that can be used in court. And so we're still going to need to have someone create a certified copy of this. And that's why it's going to be just too difficult. We've had to have court reporters in the room a couple times before for Board of Adjustment, and it's worked out very well. And unfortunately, we're back into that situation. So the Greenways, I got my $500 there. We spent $200 of that thus far, and that was marketing. So that's been very valuable, having that little extra money. So we've been doing running ads on Facebook is where all that money is being spent right now. But there's other small things that we're looking at, you know, like there's some signs that we're looking at, potentially you buying some smaller things that we can have. It's great to have that little extra money on there. So I guess the third and final page here, legal notices, you know, there's really nothing there. That we have a $2,000 for fuel. We've spent $640 out of 2,000 legal notices. We have 2,500. We've spent 1,740. So a lot of legal notices, which makes sense. We've been having a lot of hearings. On the vehicle insurance, that's set up by just what our contracts at. Beyond that, that's really it, you know, in terms of, then we have the Wisconsin fund, which again, just at 15,000, that just matches whatever we dole out on. Any questions on the budget or where we're at in terms of the budget performance? When it comes to the big ticket items, we're going to be meeting revenue without too much question. The biggest one is going to be our zoning ordinance is really the biggest one. And then we have sanitary is always the not 100% sure how that's going to pan out, but we're ahead of last year's already.
You guys are doing good. Throw a party with the extra money.
Ryan, do our vehicles, are they all 6 cylinders or 4 cylinders or what?
These, the vehicles that we're looking at,
No, that one, well, yeah, that too. Are they 4 or 6 cylinder? 'Cause that makes a big difference in mileage, of course, but if it doesn't
yes,
service well, that's a different story. But I was just wondering, what do we currently have as vehicles? Do they all have 6 cylinder engines in them or 4 or what?
the Jeep has a 6-cylinder, the van, I don't know if that's,
I gotta think it's 6.
I don't
honestly
know.
don't know.
Yeah.
The Equinox is a 4-cylinder, that the new one is, and I know the old one is as well.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that because the mileage is a lot better with the 4 cylinder if it can provide the needs that you need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's no need for any extra torque. We're not gonna be towing anything and.
Yeah,
No,
that's good. Glad to hear that.
Any questions on the budget?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. Public hearing notifications. So what we had found, we were notified by the DNR that there was an issue with our floodplain ordinance with the notification on it. And so we thought to ourselves, we didn't know what they were talking about on that. So we took a look at it. Jason spent some time looking at statutes, and sure enough, it says in statute that it needs to be at least in the paper 7 days prior to it getting adopted. This issue was never a problem before. See, we always met on Thursdays, and our papers publish on Thursdays. And so this was never one of those things that popped up, because whenever it was in the paper, 7 days from that day would be the day that we had committee, so it was never an issue. We're meeting on Tuesdays now, but it's still getting into the paper on Thursday. So what happened was we were 2 days short. We had our hearing 2 days prior to the legal requirement. So we need to fix that. We need to put it back in the paper. We need to rerun it. Now, the issue is, because I still don't know that it would be possible for us to move to Thursdays, because I think there's just too many things on Thursdays. I mean, the highway is going to be really hard with you guys meeting every 2 weeks on that. And so I think it makes sense to still keep it on Tuesdays, but we're just going to add an extra week to our noticing to give us, so it's not going to be, so it's actually going to be more like 12 days instead of.
A little extra days.
It'll be extra days, right? And so we're working with Diane right now in terms of how to word that and how to run that through to make it, to make it legal. But just so you're aware that that's going to be coming through here. We're not making any changes to the ordinance. The ordinance is remaining completely unchanged. It's just a matter of meeting the noticing guidelines.
We don't have to do anything on that July 6th meeting.
On the, I'm sorry, I
do. No, that's the.
Yeah.
Those are the minutes from the.
These are the minutes from the July 6th that I went for. I thought I was opening up the agenda. Yeah, so that's really the only thing, is that we're gonna be making that, we'll be sending those through, so you'll see that, so we'll just.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but I appreciate the 10 o'clock start. We're gonna get out of here by noon.
Jim, are you going to be able to make that 24th meeting?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we had talked about that a little bit, that we have quite a bit. This one will start at 9:30, so we're pushing it even closer. But we found that we now have more than even a long meeting that's going to accommodate. So we were hoping that we could also get one down for August 31st as well, the following week, to try to, I think we have 11 hearings right now.
Oh, you have the week right after.
The week right after, if it works for everybody, we'd like to trying to stay ahead of it as much as possible. We have
Start times again on both of them?
well, August 24th, 9:30. We did not set up a start time for the 31st yet. So we're open for whatever suggestions you have. The
And that
meeting room's
9:30
been reserved already, so whatever time you want to start, we can do that. We do like a little bit of time in the morning to be able to set up and troubleshoot any issues that come up on a green day, because there's always an issue that comes up on green day. So
If 9:30 works for you, that's fine with me. I don't know about the rest of you.
It's fine. 9:30 is fine with me.
okay, so we'll still plan on the 24th being a longer meeting, but we'll try to defray that a little bit with the 31st, a few of them as well.
Would it be possible to have the on-sites combined so that for both meetings? Because as we make the rounds and
We could try to get the packet stuff to you sooner. We have all the information already for all of
Yeah.
them, so we can get the packets to you sooner, so you can make one trip, but they'll be compartmentalized on what hearing you'll. I think that would be. okay.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Yeah, the ones today were kind of just right down the line for,
yeah,
Right,
right.
you, it's easy.
That was by design.
I mean,
I'm just thinking, I don't know who any of them are for the next two meetings, but if there's two in Caledonia and one in Farmington, and the next week it's the same thing, then we're doing a lot of extra driving. If we could save some time in driving.
We can certainly try.
Yeah, we
That's
can
been
try.
kind of- And I'll try.
Yeah.
well, I
We
mean,
are
I
running into
don't know.
problems that we don't have the clerk there anymore. It's kind of,
Right.
kind
Yeah,
of a pressure cooker, but we'll do our best.
yeah,
to-
we'll do what we can.
You know, if it wouldn't have to be a full packet to us, you could just say the address and if it's a boundary line, if it's conditional use, if it's whatever.
Well, I'll be working on the legal descriptions that are in our agenda and our notifications this week for both of them for it, so we can get those shipped out to you sooner, hopefully. At least half of them have to be done by Friday, so we'll keep plugging away at it.
I had in my calendar, we were gonna meet the 3rd of August. We're not.
that
That
one
one
was
canceled, right?
canceled.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, I just wanted to verify. my
That ended
calendar.
up a lot having to do with me.
You're that important?
No, it's
No.
the state of Wisconsin.
No. I just wanted my calendar. I had it yet in there. That's fine. I'm happy. I'm happy. If I keep my wife happy, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
We won't even go there.
Okay.
I'm gonna borrow $15 from you for John. No, he had a bad day yesterday. So.
See how I do it, Frank.
Sir. Dennis, did you do on-sites for the mileage?
She's gone.
No,
Did you have mileage for today?
Did you have any mileage for today?
No,
No, okay, thank you.
I guess I got a question there. It says in our notes there, it's always, you're supposed to be there 96 hours before. Is that because I did it
That was-
again this morning. Are we supposed to do this prior to the meetings
I
and
think it has
more?
to be done. I don't really know where the 96.
Yeah.
I always do it.
Well, I know we've been doing it that way, but in the packet, it says, hearing at least 96 hours prior to the hearing.
Right, yeah.
So I just want to make sure that I'm not violating or not doing it properly.
So we did that in consultation with Diane because before it said that they did the on-sites this morning.
Sure.
You know, and so what we said was, well, now that we're going to this process, we didn't know if it was gonna be this morning, could have been the other morning, could have been yesterday, 2 days ago. So what we wanted though, in working with Diane, is we wanted to make sure that there was a time specific, so that way the people can understand that this
Yeah.
wasn't done like, a month ago.
Yeah.
Like this was done timely, this was done, in terms of when it was
I
gonna.
looked at it up to 96. Don't know the right.
You're right, the wording on it is kind of funny.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I'm, that I'm doing it today, that I'm not violating your rules.
At least 96.
At least, yeah,
Okay.
within 96.
That's fine.
You're very legal.
Yes. We called off.
I don't want to be caught.
The sheriff was on TV last night.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
I think so.
We're adjourned.